According to Bleacher Report, the Chicago Bears may have an opportunity to add a really good impact player to their defensive line in DeForest Buckner. Question on the table today: should the Chicago Bears pull the trigger for Bleacher Report's proposed trade? We'll talk about all that and more on today's episode of the Windy City Breeze. Let's go. Now, if you are new to the channel, please like the video. Please subscribe to the page, man. We do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. It's the only channel talking Chicago sports, how Chicago talks. So make sure that you get in tune with us, man. So, per Bleacher Report, the Chicago Bears are one of the only teams really left who might be able to make a move for DeForest Buckner because of the cap hit that he would bring to a team, right? DeForest Buckner comes with a pretty penny still on that contract, but he is definitely an impact player that the Bears should be thinking about trying to go out there and get if that is an opportunity. Now, the Colts have talked about wanting to move on from Buckner, not because he's a bad player, but just because they want to kind of reset things, reset the cap at a minimum, right? Because he does come, like I said, with some money left on that deal. But what makes it the most interesting to me is that he also comes with a 0 dead cap hit. So if the Bears were willing to make a trade for DeForest Buckner, it wouldn't count again. It wouldn't bring any dead cap with it. You just have to pay out the contract, and the Bears have the money to do so, which makes this interesting. Now, the proposed trade that Bleacher Report is putting out there is DeForest Buckner for a 2023 fourth round pick. That's it. Now, initially, right, in your mind, you're like, okay, like, why would the Colts do this? Why would the Colts want to move on from a 29-year-old, 8 to 10 sack a season guy for a fourth round pick alone, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense in the realm of possibility. But when you start to look at it, right, if you are going to move on from this guy, the amount of teams and the interest seems to have completely dried up for the most part around DeForest Buckner, which means you don't have a ton of options if you're realistically going to move him. Now, of course, right, you can just hold on to DeForest Buckner. It's not like if you lose DeForest Buckner, he's there, I believe, for 2 more seasons yet. 2 more seasons he signed for till he'll be 29 and 30. He's making $18 million this coming year. He'll make $20 million the next year against your cap, right? And why would, it's not like they're hamstrung to moving on from DeForest Buckner. If they don't move on from him, you get nothing from him. But he is 29 going on 30. You'll be basically trying to hold on to a player in a system that is kind of going to have to go through an entire reset. You've got a new coach coming into the facility and all of that. So, right, trying to just reset everything around there, you are kind of to a point where, okay, if we are going to move this guy, this is the best time and probably the best price we're going to get for him moving forward. So if I'm the Chicago Bears, right, I'm interested in this deal. If I'm the Chicago Bears, I feel like this is a deal that puts my team moving in the right direction defensively again a lot quicker. And then even with all of that, now we're not sitting here talking about, man, what are we doing on this defensive line? We can actually focus our draft capital towards players that maybe are on the offensive line or are wide receivers, and we feel good about our defense heading into next season as well. Now, again, Ryan Poles has told us this is not a one-off season rebuild. This is not something that's going to be fixed quickly, but trading for DeForest Buckner doesn't exactly hold him to you for the rest of his career. Again, this season, next season, he's an undrafted free agent in 2025. So if I'm Ryan Poles and I feel like the Colts really might be willing to make a move on this, I'd be really, really intrigued on this. There's a lot that goes into, to me, right? Like, how soon is too soon? Are you trying to make that Khalil Mack jump, right? Like, all of a sudden Khalil Mack's on our defense and we're like, wow, we're going to have a top defense in the NFL. We didn't think it was going to be as good as it was, but are we trying to make that level of jump? I don't want to rush this thing, but I do think you have to think long and hard on this. By the way, I do want to know how you guys feel, man. Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. How do you feel about adding DeForest Buckner to this team for a 4th round pick? I'll be down in the comments. Like I said, man, this could be interesting if a trade like this was on the table for a couple of reasons. One, I mean, honestly, if you think about it, you probably could still get higher value for DeForest Buckner. It's just the Bears have a lot of the Colts could, I'm saying. It's just the Bears have a lot of things that fall in place that would fit the Colts actually being able to make this trade. Now, I think the other thing that you have to bring into account is the guys that you have already on your team. If you are the Bears seriously thinking about making this move, when you think about DeForest Buckner being a part of this team, right? I mean, you all of a sudden feel a little bit stronger about how your defensive line is going to be able to attack. He was a guy who in the last season, I believe he had 8.5 sacks, 7 sacks the year before, 9.5 in 2020. You know, like he's a guy that's consistently spent time in other teams' backfields, putting pressure on the quarterbacks. And what does that do? I've said this. You don't go out and you pay these guys and you don't get them the help that they need. Why was Tremaine Edmonds so impactful in Buffalo? Why was TJ Edwards so impactful with the New York Jets? Because the defensive lines that stood in front of those guys were dominant. These are two guys that are behind you now, and you don't have a lot of people that are going to be able to get to the quarterback on this team, right? You're basically coming in right now. You got DeMarcus Walker, who's probably going to be on your edge. Justin Jones, Andrew Billings, Dominique Robinson. That's probably your starting defensive line right now. Now, we can prepare for the worst and keep praying for the best with that defensive line, but I don't see this vast jump in sacks that's going to come from that. Now, could you go out there and find somebody in the draft that's going to be able to give you really good production? That's the hope, right? But there's one thing to be said about just knowing what a guy's able to bring, knowing what a guy's able to put onto the field, knowing that Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards, Jack Sanborn, Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, right? Those guys who rely on pressure from the quarterback to be better players, not to say they're bad players, but everybody knows if you get pressure on quarterbacks, it makes everything behind you better. To rely on those guys that you've got money behind in Jalen Johnson and Tremaine Edmonds and Eddie Jackson, right? That, hey, this guy's going to be able to get to the quarterback. He's going to be able to open things up for other guys because now he's going to be getting double teamed, basically. So now maybe Dominique Robinson is able to get home a little bit more. Maybe Justin Jones, who probably becomes a rotational tackle, a rotational piece on this defensive line, is able to find his way home a little bit more, right? Maybe Andrew Billingsley is able to find, like, you're helping everything by adding that impact player that teams have to scheme for. And so if it only is costing me a 4th round pick, I would be fine with that. I would actually be in on that. I would be on the phone right now finalizing that deal. And again, it's not a deal that hamstrings you to him forever. And if he gets to the point where he's 30 and he wants to say, hey, I want $25 million a year, we'll see how he's playing at that point. But that's a then issue, right? It doesn't take away any of the draft cap, or it doesn't take away a massive chunk of your draft capital, I should say. Does it take away some of your cap space? For sure. But you're trying to go young on the offensive end anyway. You got DJ Moore signed for a while here. Justin Fields is going to be the guy that you're going to worry about paying. Guess what? Most of his money's probably going to go into that next season if he does perform in that way. You've got maybe you get to the point where you have to pay Chase Claypool, but at this point, right, like, we got to see more from Chase Claypool before we even start bringing that conversation into the forefront. And then it's Darnell Mooney. I mean, you've got lower money guys on your team as well. So that's kind of what makes this work. And they're younger as well. Like I was saying, that youth, and you're going to be going into the draft looking for youth. So I think the Bears could make this work. I think this is an interesting deal for me. I would actually like to see the Bears try and get something done with this. I'd love to know how you guys feel, man. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think the Chicago Bears should make a trade for DeForest Buckner? To me, this is a no-brainer if a 4th round pick is all it's going to cost. I feel like that's probably not going to be the case when it's all said and done. But if that's all it costs, let's make it happen, man. A 2023 4th. I still got my 1st, my 2nd, my 3rd. And 2 seconds, actually, a 3rd, right? Like, I still got a lot of stuff that I can make things happen with high picks. And I've got an impact player now on my defense. 2 impact players, I should say, on my defense that are on the right side of 30 still. He's almost 30, but the contract will be up before he's on the wrong side of 30. He's still on the right side of 30. I think that this would be a move that I would love to see the Chicago Bears make. But like I was saying, I would love to know how you guys feel, man. Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. As always, it's your boy, Pat the Designer, back at it again to continue watching our Chicago Bears content. Click the links on the screen or check the links in the description below. Hey, yo, Chicago, y'all stay safe out there, man. Peace.